I mean, you never know what's going to happen when, particularly black people, when you encounter with a police officer. We've seen it go left, multiple times. Not just the stuff that you see with George Floyd or Breonna Taylor on the national level. Yeah. Think about all the stuff that you don't see. Think about all the videos that you haven't seen of black people getting assaulted or, basically, a police encounter leads to death. So you never know what's going to happen. And so, I mean, I can understand the fear of running because you don't know. You're basically running for your life a lot of times because of what we've seen happen when police encounter individuals, and so particularly black people. Yeah. And so, you don't know what was going on through young Scooter's mind in terms of what he thought. Why he probably didn't know why they were at his residence at this point. Right. And so, it's a dangerous thing. And then I think the person who made that false 911 call wasn't really thinking it through. It's just like, what are you doing? Like, why would you call? Why would you even, because you got to think about it. Once you say that, so the person, I don't even want to put a name out there, right? But the person who made the false 911 call, she basically went on social media and said why she did it. She said that there was some form of violence that took place. Well, if that violence took place, you should have just called the police at that point and then go from there. Right. But when you say, okay, you're trying to get retribution for something that was done to you, and then you saying that shots was fired, now you gotta understand, when you tell the police that shots are fired, they're trained to say, okay, this is a violent situation. We may have to use deadly force. Yeah. So you're basically setting something up for somebody to die or somebody to be hurt in some form or fashion. Yeah. She said she didn't mean for anybody to get hurt, but when you say shots are fired and you telling the 911 operator that shots are fired, you're basically saying that, okay, you're putting somebody's life in danger at that point.
Good people, what's up? What's good, y'all? Man, I'm blessed to be your host, Caleb Smith. Today's guest, you guys are already very well acquainted to. Again, man, one of the top journalists in the game, my personal favorite, A.R. Shaw. How you feeling today, brother?
Man, feeling good, man. A lot is happening. Boy, it's like the world is going upside down, man. But it's good to be here.
Yes, sir. Author of Trap History, executive editor of Atlanta Daily World, legendary things, man. AR, to your point, from seeing all the things that's been going down, I thought about you because I'm like, yo, this is a lot that's happening in hip hop and especially here in Atlanta as well. Young Scooter passed last week, man. For us in high school, we used to bump Scooter all the time. He was a legend, man. Seeing on your own story how you had just posted covering him all the way back in 2013, I believe. What were your initial thoughts of hearing about Young Scooter's passing at 39?
It's crazy, man, because it's just like, and just to give you some context on Young Scooter, I pretty much got familiar with Young Scooter around 2012, 2013. Right. He just dropped Columbia was pretty much the biggest song of that year. Yeah. And it was just, man, Columbia just hit, right? And so his team actually reached out to me and they were like, he's coming up. You want to come to the studio to interview him. Wow. And so we interviewed him at Gucci Mane's old studio off of Moreland. Yeah. I think it was called the Brick Factory. And this is Gucci Mane. This is the pre-Gucci Mane before Gucci Mane went
Gucci belly
went away. It's the Gucci belly. He with the shirt off,
ice cream
face with the double cups. Like this is that Gucci Mane, right? So Gucci Mane was in there, and so Gucci Mane. We interviewed Gucci Mane and Scooter at the same time in the studio, and so. They were just, he was pretty much just giving me his life story about how he came up. He actually is from a country town in South Carolina, moved to Atlanta when he was 9 years old. Wow. Moved to the Kirkwood area, Kirkwood on the east side. Yeah. That's where Future is from. And he met Future. Like him and Future grew up in the same neighborhood in Kirkwood, and so they became friends. And it's kind of like it's funny that it's interesting that I always say that Atlanta is kind of like the Silicon Valley of culture, where it's like in some form or fashion, you're going to be doing something around culture where it's like, whether it's music, whether it's, being in media, whether you're being producing, the culture, you're going to get involved in some form of fashion. And he was just telling me, like, everybody was rapping. Like, he wasn't really rapping, but then it was like everybody around him was rapping. So he just started. And, of course, Future signed him to free bands. And then, things just took off from there. But yeah, just to hear the case that, of his death and the craziness surrounding it, where it never really had to happen, was just like, man, what is going on? Yeah. So that was really shocking to first hear that young Scooter had passed at 39 on his birthday, and then the circumstances in which he passes was just ridiculous to me.
Yeah, circumstances, right? Hearing Beehive's takes, Wicked, shout out to all of them over there, and Wayno. Listening to everybody's take on it about those circumstances, AR, what exactly happened that led to Scooter passing? Because, bro, when I heard, he died from jumping over a fence and just bled to death, I'm like, bro, that don't even sound right. So what were your personal thoughts? And also, what exactly did happen? Yeah, so when over the weekend, I was actually out of town, and so I'm getting things, bits and pieces of like what was going on. Right. And then it was like, first people were saying he got shot. And then people were saying, no, it wasn't a shot, it was an injury. Yeah. And so, as a journalist, we gotta really wait till we get the facts, because everybody's saying stuff on social media that may or may not be true. So for me, it was like, all right, let me wait and see the facts. And once I get the facts, then I can go from there in terms of what happened. And so from what I'm hearing is that basically the police knocked on his door, and somebody opened the door, they closed it fast, and then they basically just ran out of the back and just started running. Wow. And according to police, to APD, Atlanta Police Department, that he was jumping over several fences, and then he injured himself severely and then began bleeding. I guess he might have hit an artery or something, and then he just bled out after he was rushed to Grady and then passed. And then so the initial reports was that, there was some type of violence that took place at the home, and that's what, police were responding to a 911 call. And so we like, okay, maybe something happened at the house that, prompted him to run, some, things of that nature. And then later we get the 911 call, and it's like a woman is saying that, basically, just making it was just a crazy thing in terms of what this woman said happened at this house. She said, a woman was getting beaten, a woman was getting dragged out the house. She was bleeding, said a child was with the woman, said that they were dealing drugs at the house, said that 7 dudes that they lived at the house, that they do prostitution at the house, it was shooting at the house. It was a lot of things that was packed into this 911 call. Yeah. And it's like, wow, like all this is happening. So when police did just an investigating, they didn't see any woman. None of the neighbors said anything was happening. And so it's just like, what's happening, right? Yeah. So they found out that this was really, he was swatted. Wow. And so basically someone presented a false report on what they said was occurring at young Scooter's at the residence that young Scooter was at. Wow. AR, if you can, bro, can you just break down why that is so scary for Black people, and especially Black men, of falsifying phone calls to the police? I mean, you never know what's going to happen when, particularly Black people, when you encounter with a police officer. We've seen it go left, multiple times. Not just the stuff that you see with George Floyd or Breonna Taylor on the national level. Yeah. Think about all the stuff that you don't see. Think about all the videos that you haven't seen of Black people getting assaulted or, basically, a police encounter leads in death. So you never know what's going to happen. And so, I mean, I can understand the fear of running, because you don't know, you're basically running for your life a lot of times because of what we've seen happen when police encounter individuals, and so particularly Black people. Yeah. And so, you don't know what was going on through young Scooter's mind in terms of what he thought, why he probably didn't know why they were at his residence at this point. Right. And so, it's a dangerous thing. And then I think the person who made that false 911 call wasn't really thinking it through. It's just like, what are you doing? Like, why would you even, because you got to think about it. Once you say that, so the person, I don't even want to put a name out there, right? But the person who made the false 911 call,
she basically went on social media and said why she did it. She said that there was some form of violence that took place. Well, if that violence took place, you should have just called the police at that point and then go from there.
Right.
But when you say, okay, you're trying to get retribution for something that was done to you, and then you saying that shots was fired, now you gotta understand, when you tell the police that shots are fired, they're trained to say, okay, this is a violent situation. We may have to use deadly force.
Yeah.
And so you're basically setting something up for somebody to die or somebody to be hurt in some form or fashion. Yeah. She said she didn't mean for anybody to get hurt, but when you say shots are fired, and you telling the 911 operator that shots are fired, you're basically saying that, okay, you're putting somebody's life in danger at that point.
Right. Wow. AR, from seeing social media's reaction, seeing people on the West Coast talking about Scooter's passing and people up north, I'm like, wow. Because growing up here in the city, I was just thinking it was just very niche. How would you best describe young Scooter's legacy right now in 2025?
Yeah, I mean, I think he represents a time in Atlanta where it was just like, there were so many artists coming out at this time where it was Future, you had the Migos, Young Thug. He did a few songs with Thug. He did some songs with Future. So it's just like it was like almost a movement in Atlanta in that era from like, it was like that 2011 to 2015, 16 era where it was just like a new batch of artists that was coming up post Jeezy, post T.I., post Gucci. And it was like they were kind of taking that trap music sound and scene to another level. Yeah. And so I think he represents that era where it was just like, man, this is a new level for Atlanta, and these are going to be like the new artists that kind of represent in that moment. Yeah. And so I think he's always going to be cemented because he deserves recognition in that space. Like he had he played a prominent role in that era of kind of bridging that gap between from what T.I., Gucci, and Jeezy left off, and kind of taking that mantle and taking it to the next level.
Wow. Scooter, he passes. We got Takeoff, he passed a few years back, and our list, it just keeps going and going.
Lotto Savage just passed, yeah.
Here in Atlanta, bro, for all the people that's tuned in that's not here, boots on the ground in the city, what is our vibe feeling like right now in this city?
Nah, it's crazy, man. I mean, because you got to understand, we're losing a generation in terms of creatives that pretty much impacted what the city represented, right, in a lot of ways. And in my book, I have a chapter on all of the artists that passed from Atlanta, even going back to Slim Duncan.
Wow. I forgot about Slim Duncan.
Yeah,
That's
Slim
crazy.
Duncan. Like, I mean, I went back to Slim Duncan. I mentioned Doe B in my book because Doe B had connections with Grand Hustle.
Wow.
And so, of course, Takeoff, his untimely passing. And yeah, I mean, it's just, we got to really, I think as a city, as a culture, we got to kind of like check these things and try to figure out what we're doing wrong to, in terms of like the Scooter situation is just like so, it's baffling because it's like he wasn't in the streets at this point. He wasn't doing anything illegal that we know of. Yeah. He was just at a home, and then the police come, he runs, and then he dies from jumping over the fence. So it's really like a real unfortunate situation. Yeah. But yeah, it's just bad that we're losing a lot of our artists that kind of represented pretty much putting the city on a map.
Indeed. Do you feel like Atlanta has somewhat fallen off? Because AR, I've seen podcasts, shout out to Bag Fuel, of saying, hey, Atlanta is not the same. And then I'm not going to lie, I could tell like some people are kind of rejoicing that, this Dynasty Bulls run is over with. Yeah. So has Atlanta fallen off in your opinion, AR?
Well, it's, I look at it like this. If we compare the sports, I understand from 94 to roughly, I say 2020. Yeah. And so that's, from almost over 2 decades of dominance, right? And you're right. It's like the Chicago Bulls. It's like the Patriots. Yeah. It's like, the Yankees, like the Boston Celtics in the 60s. Atlanta's culture had that type of grasp on the entire scene. Wow. And yeah, I think in a sense, you could say that Atlanta isn't as prominent as it was then, because I think you got to understand, like when we talk about movements in Atlanta, from the Dungeon Family, it was always multiple artists. When you talk about crunk era, it was always multiple artists. You had Lil Jon, you had Scrappy, like Crime Mob.
Yeah.
When you go to the trap music, you had a bunch of artists. Even Futuristic Swag, like you had like a bunch of artists that kind of represented this era, represented those eras.
Yeah.
Now you don't really have as many artists that's kind of making prominent, putting out prominent music.
Yeah.
Future is still doing this thing. You know, people can't forget what Future
in his 40s. How about that?
In his 40s, Future, Metro Boomin, just, you know, what they did last year. I think Future dropped 3 projects last year.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So it's like we can't say that. I mean, I think Lotto is doing her thing.
Yeah.
I think people are still respecting what she's doing, in a sense. I think Ghana is still doing his thing. I mean, even though I think he's West Coast based now, but he still represents Atlanta in a lot of ways. I think he's still doing his thing. Now, in terms of just like total dominance, I don't think the city is where it was 10 years ago or even 15 years ago in terms of just like always creating these movements, because we have hits here and there. But I think people are rejoicing because it's like, oh yeah. But a lot of what we're here, what represents now is kind of from what the Kendrick and Drake battle, because it kind of just, it was so big. Yeah. I think a lot of things got ignored last year because of the Drake Kendrick battle was just like so huge. Yeah. So a lot of albums and a lot of projects and a lot of movements kind of got ignored, but you still have artists who are still doing major things in Atlanta. Now that I don't think, like I said, I to be honest with you, I don't think it's on that same level as it was 10, 15 years ago. But we still can't like discount what Future is doing, discount what Lotto is doing, what Gunna is doing. Like people are still making hits, and we're gonna see what Thug does. Yeah. Hopefully he doesn't go back to jail, but we're gonna see what happens with Thug. I think if Thug comes back with a major project, I think that could be big for the city of Atlanta.
Futuristic Swag, man, that took me back, right?
Yeah,
Young LA, seeing all the kids now, like celebrating him. I'm like, yo, this is insane. Yeah. Rich kids, seeing that.
Rich kids.
With Schoolie, I'm like, okay. Yeah. How do you feel seeing younger kids now who were born in 2005, even 2010, starting to rediscover Young LA, Rich Kids, Schoolie, all of those artists? How do you feel about that?
Yeah, man, I think one thing about Atlanta is that a lot of artists have been able to make timeless music.
Wow.
And this, you know, Futuristic Swag, I guess they were really living in the future, right? The dudes was really like 10 to 15 years ahead of their time, right? But yeah, it's interesting, man. Young LA, man, he's like he's basically got a whole new way of life right now.
Going viral every week.
Going viral.
Yeah.
And you're right, TikTok is pretty much discovering these moments of Atlanta, and pretty much what represented in this city during that time.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm for it, you know, because it's like I think, like I say, it even with Crime Mob, even with this Princess her interview on Big Jerry's podcast. That was a funny thing in terms of Princess, what she said that, you know, the Michael Jackson thing, saying that Michael Jackson was supposed to be on Nuck If You Bucked, and that's the reason why the group broke up, because because Diamond was upset with them. But then again, but it brings that era back to light too, in terms of Nuck If You Buck, and you know, swag surfing is like, man, I mean, people they're swag surfing at the Super Bowl. That's like crazy. Every NFL team and NBA team is swag surfing. So it's like people saying that Atlanta's fell off, but no, Atlanta's culture is still resonated in new ways. And it's just like, it's good to see that, like, those older genres of music coming back now and being reintroduced to an entirely new generation.
Yeah, man, that's powerful. Schoolie, what do you think made Schoolie so influential during that pocket? Because AR was born in 97, we graduated 2015, so I'll probably say in like middle school. Schoolie, we were like a cult. Like all we was playing was Rich Kids. Everybody knew, my cousin, he go to school with Schoolie over here at Doug, da-da-da-da-da. What made Schoolie and Rich Kids so powerful during their time?
Man, Schoolie was melodic. Like Schoolie can sing. Like he can he can really sing. Like and so he has a powerful voice. And I think you know, the way he was singing over those tracks, I think it kind of is intoxicating in a lot of ways.
Wow.
So yeah, I think that's kind of what made Rich Kid, Schoolie, even that entire Futuristic Swag era stand out, because it was very melodic in a lot of ways. And so I've interviewed Schoolie multiple times, him coming up, and yeah, the Rich Kids, like, they definitely represent like a fun time in Atlanta where everything was just fun. Like, it was just, it kind of, it's like, even though ATL, the movie came out a few years earlier, but it felt like, this is what it feels like to go out in the skating rinks and just hang out, be a carefree teenager or a carefree college kid, and just, this is the soundtrack to your life. You know what I'm saying? Everything isn't as heavy. We just out having fun. And I think that's what Schoolie and that Futuristic Swag movement represents.
Indeed, bro. AR, would you say it's safe to say that there is a strategic attack on the city of Atlanta with Thug, with that whole indictment? We saw that Lil Baby now.
Yeah, baby. Yeah.
Gunna. What's going on?
Yeah, I mean, I think, particularly with the Young Thug situation, a lot of the Young Thug situation happened almost prior to him becoming what he was as a superstar. A lot of this stuff happened like right on the cusp of him becoming who he eventually became in terms of his superstar status. And unfortunately, he was affiliated with he continued to affiliate with a lot of those individuals who were part of some of the things that they were accused of years prior. And so I mean, I think that was a bad look on the city too. We don't know what's going to happen with the Baby situation. They're trying to tie him to some things that happened over in Oakland City. Wow. So, it's just, we don't know what's happening. But it's like, unfortunately, it's like I say, man, sometimes it's the people who you're associated with can bring you down. So I think this is a lesson to a lot of people. It's like sometimes you got to kind of separate yourself. When you're seeing that, okay, this is going to be, I'm trying to take another level, go to another level. You can't like take the same people with you, because those same people might bring you down in a lot of ways. And so we're seeing that, we're seeing a lot of that happen. And then a lot of those people tell on you. The people that you thought they were your friends, they'll get in front of the feds and say, oh yeah, he told me to do this. Oh yeah, he told me to do that. And it's like, because they want to get their time lesson and they don't want to, they basically making plea deals. And so, yeah, it's important to really like, affiliate yourself with people that at some point you got to break away. And I think that's what's happening with a lot of these artists who are still affiliated with some of the people who they grew up with, but the friends who they grew up with are still connected to crime in a lot of ways. And it can bring your entire empire down.
Yeah, man. Lil Durk, that's another prime example. Seeing him, right? He gets pulled down. So from seeing just constant artists over time have to get pulled down with RICO charges now, how should just overall rappers move? Because of growing up in the hood, right, where this could be my best friend that we grew up together, how should they properly go about developing those type of relationships, the love, all of that, the girlfriends, all of that? How should a rapper move that grew up in a certain area during a certain time, but then not switch up on his people?
Well, it's what's interesting with hip hop, what makes rap so different from other genres is that the crews are always seem like an element of what makes rap, right? You can go back to like the Cold Crush days, you know what I'm saying? Like Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five, like it was all about the rap crew. And like back then they were doing like breakdancing crews. And so, but hip hop was almost like an alternative to gang life. So a lot of those gangs in the 70s and the 60s, they kind of used their, instead of fighting, they kind of like battled through the arts, battled through rhyme and battled through breakdance and things of that nature. And so the hip hop crew or the rap crew has always been significant to hip hop culture, from the 80s from 70s, 80s to 90s moving on. You look at the Wu-Tang Clan. All those dudes used to come. They would come thick, right? They would be deep. Even the Dungeon family, like they were always deep. Like these were like 10 or more people that just would click up together. And so, seeing a lot of dudes together, that's what it was. Like you bring your homeboys with you. You bring everybody who you grew up with. If you got an opportunity to take them on a road, that's what they would do. kind of just, it was a way of giving back in a way,
Yeah.
putting people on, giving people jobs, giving people opportunities, things of that nature. And like you say, a lot of times those people, they were connected to crime before the artist blew up. And now that the artist is blown up, it's like, all right, what do we do now?
Yeah.
And so, you just, at some point, you got to kind of break away and be like, look, for the betterment of your life and for the betterment of everybody else, I'm gonna have to break away and to just be around the people that I know walking on the same path that I'm going to walk on.
Indeed.
And I think it's up to the record labels too, because the record labels, I don't know if they're doing a lot of mentoring either. They sign the record labels, they sign these artists, come straight out of the hood. They give them a loan. It's basically a record deal is basically a loan. They give them a loan. But are they really preparing them for the next level?
No.
In the NBA or before you go to the NFL or any major league sports team, they have a symposium. They had a rookie symposium.
Yeah.
Are record labels doing artist symposiums where they're telling, okay, this is who you need to associate with. This is who you shouldn't associate with.
Wow.
This person can take you down, or are they? That's what I'm just trying to figure out. All the record labels doing these things that's going to help these artists in the long run versus okay, they have a hit. Let's get how much we can get out of them while they hot, and then just discard them. And so I think that's a major thing we need to discuss.
Bro, excellent point, because I would say recently now on social media, everybody's talking about record labels now. Hey, we got to hold them just as accountable with every artist that we see getting taken down for the RICO, all of that. How, on the level, I would say, of full responsibility, accountability, what would you rank that at for just overall record labels right now? How do you feel about that?
In terms of?
I would say in terms of artists that are getting arrested, artists who are dying prematurely in their 20s, early 30s. Like we go from Dolph, Nip, this person, that person. RICO charges. It's a new RICO every single week, but these labels aren't getting pulled in on the RICO. How do you feel about that?
No, you're right. I think record labels should be accountable. They should be held accountable, because it's like if you're putting out this content and then it's like you're in business with these individuals,
right?
You're basically allowing this to occur, and you've seen this occur,
right.
And whether you turn a blind eye or not, you're in the presence of a person that's what prosecutors are saying are committing crimes, and so particularly when the YSL the rap lyrics came to a forefront, it was like, all right, you're trying to use rap lyrics to indict an artist, but the record label is not really being indicted on anything, where the record labels are distributing, profiting from, and basically they're okay.
Yeah.
But it's like, if you took it back and said, okay, even if it was a drug deal, and then it's like, all right, the record label bought the plane for somebody to deal drugs, and they say, okay, we're gonna purchase this private jet, and we're gonna allow you to transport drugs from here to LA or whatever. And if the record label buys this plane, purchases this plane, the record label should be held liable.
That's right.
So why is the record label being held liable when it comes to music, rap lyrics, in terms of these artists are being indicted for their art, but then it's like the record label's hands are free. So it's just but then you got to understand who's running the record labels. So it's like most of the people who are running the major record labels aren't black.
Yep.
And so they're basically using the culture, enriching themselves, but not actually being held accountable.
Yeah. AR, do you ever see a time where black people finally say, hey, we've had enough? Of course, we have Master P. We got so many people, Jay Prince, Baby, of course, where they've set up their own situations, made millions on millions, hundreds of millions. But on that major level where we got UMG, all these big labels, those top legacy labels, when will black people finally say, hey, man, we just going to start something on our own, do it? Because to your point, we got people who are able to turn 80, 90 years old and they still own Chuck Berry's masters, or still own this person's masters, making money off of them. Lil Durk owning that. He could be in prison dropping albums. They're like, bro, that's even better because now we ain't got to pay for nothing. when will Black people say, hey, we've had enough?
Well, it's going to take powerful Black people to do it.
Yeah.
You know, so when you talk about Universal Music Group, their entire corporation, right? They're like a multi-billion-dollar corporation.
Wow.
And so, and that's, you know, when you talk about a corporation, it's like board members, chairman, CEO, things of that nature. So it's like you almost got to build an infrastructure that mirrors a corporate structure. And so when you talk about that, you have to kind of bring in big names and from not just from the artistic side, but from the business side as well. So if you wanted to create a black corporate music structure, you're gonna need some powerful Black people involved. And to me, I probably would, if I was like saying, okay, these are the people that could do it. Of course, you want to get somebody like a Jay in there, a business person. But then, what's my guy, the richest Black man who gave
Robert Smith.
Robert Smith.
Yeah,
I was
thinking about him. Yeah,
bring in Robert Smith, who basically paid the tuition of all Morehouse students.
That was amazing.
So you bring somebody like a Robert Smith in from a business standpoint who understands the business structure. You bring in somebody like a Jay-Z who understands the music side of it. And then you kind of build a corporate structure around those two. And then you get board members. I think you could start there. And then you would have like a Black-owned distribution company. But he has to be on that level, right?
Yeah.
You gotta, because that's what you gotta think about if you're trying to battle UMG. Because I mean, Black music moves. They're basically moving. You know, they're the engine behind what's running these labels. And Black people don't own it. You know, they don't own a significant portion of it. And so they're creating these timeless gems that they don't own. Man. So yeah.
Here in the city, there's always a kid that's up next, right? 2016 or really like 2014, 2013, Migos, they start bubbling, and we start getting Gunna. After that, we start getting Baby, and then it's just growing and growing and growing. And to your point, since 94, it was always somebody up next. Right now, I don't really see anything, but in your own personal expertise, who is probably up next here in the city to be like our flagship megastar? Somewhere.
Man, it's kind of hard. It's kind of hard to say flagship megastar of up next in Atlanta, because it's like, I think there are people who are talented, but it's like, who's gonna like break through and be that superstar? And I don't, even though like Cardi's been around for a while, but Cardi's a superstar,
and he is from Atlanta.
Cardi's he's in Atlanta. He's from Atlanta, so it's like Cardi, but Cardi and this last like Cardi's all right. Cardi is like he's some, like, the average person ain't gonna be able to listen to Cardi.
Right. Yeah.
Because his frequency is very it's something that the average person is not gonna be able to get, because it's not a mainstream sound. It's very particular, right? Yeah. And you gotta really be tuned into what's going on with his movement to really appreciate it. The younger generation love Cardi. Like teenagers right now. Yeah. Some college kids, they into Cardi like that ain't nothing, right? And so I think Cardi, even though he has a lot of personal issues, I think Cardi could actually be that person, that next Atlanta superstar. Yeah. He got the co-sign from Kendrick. Kendrick is on like multiple songs on the new album. Yeah. And it's major. Kendrick coming off the Super Bowl, and his first feature is on Cardi's album. Yeah. So it's like, that's a major look for somebody like a Cardi. And a lot, like I said, like Cardi has his segment of fans, but I still don't think Cardi is mainstream yet, because he doesn't really make mainstream music per se. He's not trying to. He's just trying to build a vibe. Yeah. And I think that's what he's for. But I think if Cardi on his next project, if he sat down with, all right, and I don't think he's gonna do it, but if he sat down with somebody like, I don't know, like a Mustard or somebody who can like, or even like a Jermaine Dupri, like somebody who could give him like a radio hit. Yeah. Because I think that's the one thing that he lacks is like something that's like, all right, the average person who doesn't listen to music knows this song.
Mm-hmm.
That's one thing that Cardi doesn't have. And I think to get to that next level, you got to have a mainstream song that everybody, that the average person that doesn't listen to music knows.
Yeah.
So Cardi could be that person. Even though he's been around for a while, I think Cardi could actually take it to another level.
Indeed. Why do you think so many kids just naturally gravitate towards Cardi? Because I've seen tweets from kids saying he's like their Wayne and all of that. Why do you think so many kids love Playboy Cardi?
You know what's interesting? If you just listen to the progression of Cardi's sound, or where Cardi kind of came from. So to me, I look at it like this. I think Wayne influenced Thug in a lot of ways. Okay. And I think Thug influenced Cardi in a lot of ways. And it's like Cardi is kind of doing what Thug was doing 10 years ago, but for this new generation. Wow. And so I think that's kind of where we are in terms of like that sound. Like he's it for the moment. And I think kind of the vibe that he brings in a show, it's kind of like mosh pit. It's like, it's very, it feels like rock. It feels like, like heavy metal. So it's like he's putting together, like I said, a vibe that if you're young and you got energy and you want to jump around and like, you got all this energy, this is what you want to listen to. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? He represents that, what it's like to be a teenager right now, or like a young 20-something adult, young 20s adult. Yeah. So I think that's what it is with Cardi. I think he has that pretty much age group right now.
Wow. AR on the West Coast, no jumper land, if you will. Yeah. Big U, he gets tied up. Rico, Loose Cannon, Brick Baby. How do you feel of seeing this new age of, I would say, people from the streets trying to get into media now? Now we got athletes in media. We got former gang members in media. But now that's being used, podcasts, interviews, for indictments. How do you feel about seeing that take place with this whole situation?
Yeah, I mean, it's weird to me because I think there was a time when people who were doing criminal activity didn't want to talk. Right. Right. They never wanted to talk to anybody. They just did. Because I think back then, criminals, if this is how they were getting paid, they wanted to kind of be as low key as possible. Right. They didn't want to be in the news. They just wanted to kind of like, all right, this is how you get your money and you go home and whatever. Yeah. Like, I'm talking about the old school gangsters, whatever. Yeah. To me, it's just like this podcasting thing, this new media thing. It's just like, it's going overboard. I think it's like jump the shark in a sense where it's just like, people are snitching on themselves. Yeah. Basically, it's just like they're telling on themselves. When you talk about NBA, they gossiping. It feels like a gossip fest. Wow. You're telling secrets and stuff that probably should have stayed in the locker room in a lot of ways. A lot of it is entertaining, but at the same time, it's just like some secrets need to remain secrets. You don't have to tell everything that's happened in your life, and you don't have to like tell on people. And I think that's what's happening. It's just like everybody's just telling right now. Everybody feels like they have to say something about something. Yeah. And I think that's where the media space is going left in terms of just like, sometimes you just need to shut up. Yeah. Like everything doesn't need to be presented and on a platform. Yeah. Like some things you could just keep to yourself. And I think that's where this new age of media is kind of like going off the rails, because it's just like people are just telling on themselves. Yeah. And it's just weird. I don't understand, like, why would you put yourself in that predicament? And then me being a journalist, I understand it. Like, I know that, you can say some things that can indict you. Yeah. So it's weird to see how this thing is pretty much unfolded.
Adam 22, right? He just made a post last night saying, hey, no jumper guys, we're going broke. He made a whole video about it. He was saying that views is going down. He was saying engagement is not the same. The brand is not the same either. Seeing that, I was taken aback from it, because for so many years, people used to always criticize them, and the Vlads, of course. Do you see a shift happening from consumers of content saying we aren't even interested in crazy content about crime stories or about just clout chasing stuff? Do you see a shift that's possibly occurring during this time?
I mean, it's possible. I
Yeah.
mean, you gotta understand this. I think we're at a time now where it's so much content. We've never had this much content in the history of the world, right?
Wow. Yeah.
Like this, like everybody is a content creator in some form or fashion.
Yeah.
Where, when I was in journalism school, it was basically like, when I was coming up, it was basically we had like social media was just starting, like Instagram and Twitter stuff was just starting, Facebook was just starting, the blog era, because that's like kind of when I was in school, was when the blog era was like coming up, and so mainstream media was still the goal.
Yeah.
Like you had some independent media, a lot of independent media companies, but the average person wasn't particularly doing media unless they actually studied media, unless they actually went through the rigors of understanding what media is.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think because with so much content right now, people are like trying to figure out what content they should consume, when they should consume it.
Yeah.
And so it's just, I just think we're almost oversaturated with a lot of content, and then the content that No Jumper does is very exploitive.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways, what he's doing is exploiting a lot of these artists that come on, that have these backgrounds. They come on there, they snitch on themselves, and then the producers or whatever aren't really held accountable.
Right.
And it's different from like if you're, let's say Barbara Walters is interviewing a criminal or something. Barbara Walters isn't trying to be this criminal's friend, right?
Yeah.
The way No Jumper is presented is like, oh, I'm your friend, and this is cool. You can sit down and talk to me, but then it's like you're almost interrogating this person, and it's just like, I don't understand why people send across for them and divulging so much information. But I think that has a lot to do with it too. It's just like, do people really want to? Because at the same, you're exploiting Black people, and you're exploiting negative aspects of what Black people live on a day-to-day basis. Yeah. And he's been called out on that multiple times about what is he actually contributing to, what I'm saying, in this space. Yeah. Because without those interesting stories of gang members and things of that nature, what does he really have? Nobody wants to just sit there and listen to him talk. Wow. like what does he have interesting to say about anything? It's the culture of Black people that makes his platform interesting. Wow. So when you take that away, what do you really have?
Wow. Hey, come on, AR. In Texas, great city of Dallas, it seems like it's always something going crazy in Dallas. Yella Beezy, a talented artist, tied up right now. Mo3, he passed a few years back. Unfortunately, Yella Beezy is tied to that murder. They were once close friends, right? What were your initial thoughts on hearing about Yella Beezy now being tied up in a murder case?
Man, I was shocked because it was just like, I mean, I knew there was some type of disagreement between them two, but I didn't think it was that deep in terms of, and then I saw the footage of Mo being gunned down. It was really sad, man, just to kind of, for them to put that out there. I don't, I think people need to really be cautious when they put things like that, because they have family members that have to watch it, and then people are sharing it on social media. I think people really need to be cautious about how they put out content like that. It's another bad situation, another sad and bad situation that's happening in Dallas, in terms of Dallas is a very small rap community, right? They're not even like Atlanta, whereas Atlanta, you can have a rap pocket on the east side of Atlanta, you have a rap pocket on the south side, College Park. You have Zone 6, you have, what I'm saying? You have
Migos up all the way
Migos
in Gwinnett.
So you have people, you have different pockets of rap movements in Atlanta. Whereas Dallas don't really have that. Like Dallas is very small when it comes to their rap movement. Wow. And, just to see like, man, like, two guys who were friends, and it goes to that level. I just wish they would have had more guidance before it got to that point. Right. And I wish the OGs would step in. I wish like we need more people, more mentors to come in and be like, all right, man, y'all chill out. Let's sit down. Let's figure this out. Y'all ain't gotta like each other, but y'all just need to like, stop the talking and just go on about your business. Yeah. I think that's what's missing in a lot of in the culture anyway. It's like, who are the OGs? Who are the people that's gonna get their attention before it gets to this level? Wow. And it's gonna like talk to them and sit them down and say, all right, y'all need to just cut it out for a second, be cool, let's just chill out. And I think that's what's missing, man. We need more mentors that's respected. We need more OGs that's respected that can step in before things go to the point of murder.
Indeed. During this time, I love it because everybody's talking about journalism. What is journalism, right? LeBron,
what is journalism?
Stephen A. Smith, seeing that whole thing happen. Bron is one of my favorite players ever. Yeah. But seeing this, everybody's breaking down what is real journalism, right? As a real journalist, right? Executive editor on top of that. What were your thoughts on Stephen A. Smith's standpoint against Bron trying to hop on media as well and using that towards Stephen A.? Do you feel like this is a good representation of what professional journalism should be?
So, the Stephen A. LeBron James situation is really perplexing in a way.
Yeah.
Now it's entertaining, right?
It is.
We can watch and we can be like, oh, they said this about each other. They said this about each other.
Yeah.
I think LeBron, and I think LeBron, man, I think what he's doing is amazing in terms of what he's doing on the court, off the court.
Yep.
To me, he's the greatest of all time because he's reached levels that nobody has ever reached.
I say that too.
Points like he's done it in a way that nobody has done it before.
He's a billionaire while still playing.
He's a billionaire while still playing.
Yeah.
For LeBron, I wish that he would have waited to the offseason to engage because it's like this is something where it's just like, is it really worth your time at this point when you're trying to actually win a championship? I think now that you got Luka, I think the Lakers could actually get in the playoffs and go on a run. Yeah. So I think for me, it's just like, all right, was this the right time? And when your team is trying to actually do something special,
right?
Should you really engage with Stephen Smith on this level?
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, Stephen A. Smith, there's something. All right, so back in the day, this is an old journalism joke is that never pick a fight with the media because the media is never going to run out of ink. And this is basically about newspapers because it's like, this is back in the day because a journalist can write an article about you every single day. And you can't, you know what I'm saying? You're not going to win. Yeah. People don't understand it. So when you go back and forth with Stephen A. Smith, he can get on the mic and say something every single day. And and I'm sure Stephen A. Smith is loving it because he's getting views, he's getting traction, like
endless content.
It's like a layup for him. Like he's loving this moment. Yeah. So, and LeBron gave it to him. Like LeBron gave him an alley-oop to like, all right, y'all gonna be paying attention to me for the next 2 or 3 weeks because this is what I'm gonna say about LeBron. My only issue with Stephen A. Smith was him bringing Kobe into it. I thought when you brought Kobe into it, all right, that's not journalism because it's like you're getting personal now. It's like, why are you bringing Kobe Bryant into this situation? Yeah. Regardless of if LeBron was there or not, regardless of if he was seen there or not, I probably would have not put Kobe Bryant into the situation because it's just like, he still have family that's mourning him. He still has kids out there. And those kids hear and see things. So I wouldn't want his kids to see that, okay, why is my father being brought into this situation that has nothing to do with him? Yeah. So I thought that was kind of that was an anti-journalistic move that could have been avoided. Yeah. But everything else was just like, I think, fair game between them going back and forth. I understand where LeBron is coming from because it's like for him, it's like, why are you talking about Bronny? Yeah. And Bronny is a 2nd round pick. So who else is like, what other 2nd round pick are they talking about? Like, what other 2nd round pick is saying, okay, he shouldn't be like, what are you like? His whole argument was that why are you putting your son in this bad situation where you basically setting him up to fail? All right, what other 2nd round pick is? What are they doing? Like
he's in the G League. Like, that's where he's supposed to be.
He's in the G League.
Yeah,
he's scoring. He scored like 39 points in the G League a few weeks ago, a week ago or something. Yeah. But my thing is, it's like a 2nd round pick. Nobody's talking about 2nd round picks,
right?
They're barely talking about the 1st round picks. I can't remember the last time the Hawks got the 1st pick. They got Zachary Ricochet.
Yeah.
I can't remember the last time they talked about Zachary Ricochet on First Take. No. I can't remember the last time.
Look, he's going crazy. That's the wild part.
He scored 36 the other day
as a rookie.
But I haven't seen the constant debates about is Zachary Ricochet or Stephon Castle who should be Rookie of the Year. I think that's a good debate.
Yeah,
that's a perfect debate to have. Why are we talking about Bronny? This man was like the 58th pick. why are we talking about Bronny, man? Like, come on, man. The 58th pick.
Yeah.
If he scores 1 point, like, who cares?
Yeah.
Like, the dude was picked 58. Like, why aren't you talking about Stephon Castle, who's balling for San Antonio? He's from Atlanta,
From
too.
Atlanta, yep.
Yeah, so it's like, you know, he's balling. You got Zachary Richardson, he's balling, you know, but nobody's talking about him. You talking, y'all spending all this space talking about Bronny. But it's entertainment. I understand that views, clicks, all I understand that. I understand that in order to make money in media, you got to get the views, you got to get the clicks, you got to get people to engage, you got to trigger people.
Yeah.
And Stephen A. Smith is perfect at, boy, he knows how to trigger people, boy. Like, he understands the art of that. And that's what I respect about Stephen A. Smith is that he knows that if he approaches a subject, he's going to get you to care about it. You're either going to hate him or you're going to love him. It's no in between.
Polarizing figure.
He's polarizing.
Yeah.
And so that's one thing that Stephen A. And that's why he got the big bucks.
Yeah. Wow.
He got the $100 million contract because he knows how to trigger people. He knows the things that's going to say to get people to either really agree with him or really disagree with him. And so that's why he's probably the top journalist in sports right now.
Indeed. AR, last week, shout out to our guy, friend of the show, Ray Daniels. He went viral for talking about this same situation and critiquing Bron and saying that he should have been on a black platform instead of Pat McAfee's show. I'm not going to lie. I enjoyed the interview, and it's chess, not checkers. Context is very important. LeBron, he flew in Indiana because they had a game that day.
Yep.
So I'm like, that's why he was on Pat's show. And then Pat, you know, Stephen A., they be going at it. So it was chess. But as a black journalist, do you feel like Bron, he should have gave Shannon a look or any black platform a look of just sitting down with them talking opposed to sharing Bron's rare interview space with a white platform? How do you feel about that critique?
So like you said, context matters.
Right.
LeBron was in Indiana for the game. I think they played the Pacers like either that night or the next.
It was that same night.
Oh, it was the same night. So he was in Indiana for the Pacers game.
Yeah.
I don't know, you know, so a lot of times when it comes to media and interviews, a lot of times what happens is you may see somebody or somebody may see you and be like, oh, and I've had this happen a lot. Oh, when I'm in Atlanta, we're gonna chop it up. We're gonna do an interview. And when the person comes to Atlanta, it's like, but we probably set it up months prior to, like, you know, whenever you come to this city, we're gonna chop it up. And you understand, he's only in Indiana once a year.
Yeah, I forgot about that because he's playing on the West.
It's only once a year. So he probably had that agreement with Pat. He probably agreed with him to do this interview maybe 6 months ago, maybe in the summer. He probably saw Pat somewhere and was like, look, I'm gonna be in, whenever the Pacers play the Lakers, I'm gonna come do your podcast. LeBron probably made that agreement months prior, right? And Pat was like, all right, LeBron probably stuck to his word. LeBron appears to be a man of his word. I've interviewed LeBron. He is a man of his word.
Humble flex, AR. I had no idea about
I interviewed him in like 2011 or something.
In his prime.
Huh?
I said in his prime.
He kind of started kind of still in his prime.
But like Heat days, that was insane.
Yeah, it was the Miami.
That was
you know
insane.
what? No, it was actually the year before he went to the Heat that I interviewed LeBron. We did a cover story with him, and so we shot, and so he sat down and he gave us a lot of time to do the interview, do the photo shoot. Yeah. So LeBron is a man of his word. I think he gave, and I don't, like I said, I don't have any insight, but I think he probably gave Pat some, you know, when I come to your city, I'm gonna do your podcast or your show or whatever. The time came around, and it probably just happened to be the moment where all this stuff blew up with Stephen A. Smith. I think he was going to do the podcast regardless of what happened or not, you know. But yeah, I think I don't know. Most times LeBron has done he's done his own. He's done the shop. He mostly does things on the shop in terms of him expressing himself. So him doing Pat McAfee, I really wasn't upset. I don't necessarily think that he was going to go on to Shannon at this point. Yeah. Now, I don't know. Like, I don't know if that was if that's being discussed or things of that nature. I don't know. I wasn't upset, and now it definitely would have been a good look if he would have went on the pivot or if he would have went on Shannon.
I didn't think about the pivot.
Yeah, the pivot. I like Ryan Clark. I like how he rolls things out. So yeah, it would have been good for him to give that to a black content creator. But at the same time, like I said, I think that interview was already predetermined, and I think it just happened to be around the time when everything blew up with Stephen A. Smith.
Yes, sir. AR, do you feel like black entertainers, athletes, creators sometimes overlook black media platforms and try to instead go with those like traditional white media platforms and then not interview with a black owned platform or just a black journalist? How do you feel about that aspect of that?
Man,
thought?
it's a whole story behind that whole thing where you got black artists who don't really do black media. I've been involved in black media for years, and I've had to deal with it in terms of trying to get a major black artist to sit down with black media. Because what happens is a lot of times, a lot of the black artists and people, a lot of black prominent public figures, their representation isn't black. So when you're dealing with people who have representation that isn't black, a lot of times they don't care about black people, right? Wow. And it's not the fact that I don't want to say that they're racist or anything. Yeah. It's just like, for them, it's who they respect. So they're going to respect the Today Show. They're going to respect the Good Morning America. They're going to respect all the mainstream press because that's where they feel like is the biggest platforms for them to get the most bang for their buck. Right. For who they're representing, right? Yeah. So a lot of times black media get overlooked because they don't have black representation. Now, if you got black representation, so Beyonce has black representation. Shout out to Yvette. Yvette is cool. She's so cool. See it. Look, she already shaking her head. She part of the hive. So Beyonce, she has black representation. And Yvette, I've been knowing Yvette, who's Beyonce's PR person. I've been knowing her for years. Wow. And she's always made it a point to give black media an opportunity. Man, I remember, so she used to rep Prince too. So let me tell you a story about what Yvette did for me when I was working at Rolling Out. And so this is when Prince came to Atlanta. This is his final, actually it ended up being his final show. Wow. April 2016, I think. So I go to the Fox Theater, and for whatever reason, they don't have my tickets, right? So I'm like, dang, where my tickets at, right? So I was like, I got, promised tickets. They're like, we can't find our tickets. So I reach out to Yvette. Yvette is in London. And she makes a call to the Fox Theater from London to make sure that I got tickets to see Prince from London. And so that's what I'm saying. So I don't think the average publicists might not have done that. You know what I'm saying? For black owned media to get me into a Prince concert from London. Right. You know what I'm saying? So to me, that's powerful. Yeah. So it's like, but anytime Beyonce did something, all right, I got you. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, and that's black representation looking out for black media. Wow. But a lot of artists don't have that. So Beyonce, who's the biggest artist of our generation, she made sure that her representation remained black. And so that's why you see a lot of black media outlets get content that's Beyonce related. Because you gotta appreciate that. Yeah. I've dealt with publicists who aren't black, who just won't even. It was interesting, man. I'm gonna tell you another story. So Jada Pinkett Smith, I was supposed to I was trying to do a cover story with Jada Pinkett Smith, and this was years ago, maybe like 10 years ago, and so I'm reaching out to this publicist. I'm like, all I need is like 30 minutes for us to do this quick interview. We could do a photo shoot, We just gonna be in and out. So the publicist's like, we'll see what happens. We'll see, So she comes back to me and she's like, well, we're not gonna have enough time for us to do the interview. So I'm like, all right, whatever. Jada comes to Atlanta. She does like this round table, right? So I'm involved in this round table. And so I'm looking at Jada Pinkett, me and her like face to face, but this other journalist. So I'm like, well, did your publicist tell you that I wanted to do a cover story with you? She's like, what? The publicist never told Jada Pinkett that I wanted to do a cover story with her. I'm sitting there looking at Jada Pinkett in the face, and she has never heard of me wanting to do a cover with her. And this publicist, it's a white woman, didn't tell her. She did not tell her that I wanted to do a cover with Jada, that it wouldn't take that long, and we could just get it done, right? I got to give a shout out to Jada. Jada said, look, let's do it today. And Jada was like, look, that's real Baltimore. That's real Jada being real. Jada was like, let's do it today. Can you bring your people in today and we could just do the cover shoot today? Wow. I called my team up. I called my photographer up. Let's get the lights. Let's get this. Let's get that. Let's just make it happen. And we made it happen. But I don't get this if I didn't talk to Jada face to face. And her telling me that she had never heard that I wanted to do a cover story with her. So the white publicist, this white woman publicist, never relayed the message, never even sent an email, anything to Jada. This is the first time Jada's hearing about this. But so that's what you're dealing with. So that's why you see a lot of black artists and black celebrities don't do a lot of black-owned media, because a lot of their representations don't tell them that they're being offered these opportunities. So, I mean, you even if you're doing red carpets, like my homeboy Jamal, who owns Black Tree Media, he did this thing where it was just like, if you go on movie premieres in the red carpet, it's basically they have like the mainstream media up front, then they have like kind of like the middle media in the middle, and then it's like the black media is always at the end. Black media is always in like this segregated.
I was just gonna say that. That's what it sounds like.
Always a segregated spot on the red carpet.
Wow.
And I think it was my homeboy from Black Tree. I think he was on the carpet, and then I think Halle Berry came down, and then like Halle Berry's white representation is pulling her. And then like they're trying to get her off the carpet. And then so I think somebody yelled, well, you're not gonna talk to black-owned media? I
remember that clip.
You remember the clip?
Yep.
And so Holly stops and she did her interview. But if it wasn't for, this person saying, look, you're not gonna do black-owned media, she would have kept going. They would have kept pulling her off the carpet.
Wow.
But they don't understand how it is. What a small interview would do for a black-owned media company, to get a Halle Berry, even if it's for like a minute.
It's a great look.
It's a great look. You know what I'm saying? It heightens your platform. It heightens your views. It helps you to compete with the larger publications in a way. Yeah. So there's a lot of segregation. There's a lot of racism that still happens in this media space where a lot of black-owned media outlets don't really have an opportunity. And I think, what's my guy? Sterling K. Brown.
Yep.
That was another situation where he was talking about, I think they interviewed him at the Oscars, and then they asked him about black-owned media, and for him, he was like, he didn't really even notice it. Wow. So a lot of times these artists, or these people in these, in these positions, for them it's just like a job. It's just kind of like going through the motions of doing a lot of interviews.
Yeah.
But then it's like you got to become conscious of, are you really, taking time for black-owned media?
That's right.
Because it's important. I think you have to take care of the people who are going to take care of you. Because at some point you're going to fall off, and black media going to mess with you, regardless if you fall off or not. You know what I'm saying? But you try to get on Good Morning America when you ain't hot. They ain't going to answer your call. So I'm just,
Jonathan Majors.
Hey,
that's a prime example.
That's a prime example.
Yeah.
We haven't seen him on any mainstream publications with he just dropped
on the Breakfast Club.
He was on,
that was the only main interview.
That's black media. He did Sherry Shepherd's show.
Yeah. But
I haven't seen him on any major outlets. So yeah, it's just, it benefits the artist or whoever is prominent to maintain that relationship with black-owned media, because black-owned media is always going to have your back.
Oof. That's a clip right there, AR, for sure. Very last question for you, brother. Loren LaRosa, just hilarious on The Breakfast Club. Again, man, journalism is the common theme of the day right now. Yeah. What were your own personal thoughts about Loren's role? How do you feel about her talents? And then Jess as well, how did you feel about that whole breakdown that happened, I would say, roughly, 2 weeks ago? How do you feel about that? Oh, yeah, the Loren LaRosa, just hilarious situation. It was good for both of them, actually, in terms of that thing. It was The Breakfast Club has always had these moments where it's just they go viral. Yeah. I remember the first time they went viral was when Ray J went off on, I think he was trying to fight Fabulous or something. It was like he was going off on Fabulous. So that was like the first time the Breakfast Club went viral, right? But they kind of blew them up because a lot of people don't know that the Breakfast Club was
possibly on the verge of like ending because of views. But then it's like after that Ray J moment, it kind of like, all right, that was it. Like they took him to another level.
Birdman was one.
The Birdman put some respect on my name. That was a major one.
Yeah.
And this is another major one. I think this pretty much it took them to it kind of kept them in the conversation of like, because everybody was talking about it in terms of just like the dynamics of two black women and being in these same spaces in the workplace. How do you know, is it room for more than one?
Wow.
And things of that nature. There's a lot of layers to that whole thing. I've been on Loren for some years. Loren has always been a hard worker. Mm-hmm. She's always like put in the work in terms of just from journalism. She's, you know, she does the homework. Like so she's someone before she gets on camera, before she gets anywhere, she's gonna do her calls. She's gonna like try to connect with people. Yeah. So I've seen her do this in real time before Breakfast Club. So I've seen her, you know, work like this. And even with her background in TMZ, you know, learning that you know, if something happens, you call the authorities. You get a statement from a lawyer. She knows how to go through the paper trails to get information. Yeah, and that's a skill that you kind of learn as a journalist that the average person doesn't really know. A lot of people think that because you're in front of a camera that you're media. I saw Axe say that he's the best journalist.
He called himself a journalist.
Yeah, after he basically listened to Kanye talk for 2 hours, he called himself the best living journalist. Like, bro, get out of here. What you did was not journalism. You just basically set up a camera and you let this man talk to you for a couple hours or whatever. Yeah. But yeah, what she's doing is journalism in terms of like getting a paper trail of facts before you speak. And I think that's a missing item right now in this day and age of media, is people actually getting the facts before they speak, and that's important. Yeah. And it takes homework. It takes patience, and it takes discipline to be able to do that. I think Jess, hilarious. I think, you know, she came up with under the social media skit era, and she got a lot of views fast. And then she was on Nick Cannon's Wildin' Out doing that, and so. I think a lot of, you know, for the Breakfast Club, they probably saw her numbers on what she did from a social media standpoint and said, look, we can transfer this and then, you know, get her followers to listen, which makes sense from a dollars and cents standpoint. You want to get people that already have a big base. But I don't think Jess was prepared for that moment in terms of what it takes to do journalistic work in that moment, right? And sometimes it takes training to like, all right, this is how you read copy. This is how you actually follow up with people. This is how you actually do the work to get this story, to make this story as impactful as it can be. Right. Instead of just reading something. And I think that's something that Loren brought to the table that Justice wasn't doing. And I think Jess kind of got intimidated because it's like, all right, you know, Jess understands too. Because it's just like, you know, if you playing basketball or any sport or, you know, and it's just like, man, you playing and it's like this person can dribble like Trae Young and he's shooting in my face. Like, and I can't, you know, you pretty much know if a person has more skills than you when you're on the same level, when you're pretty much face to face, right? So I think Jess knew that Loren had more skills. I think she probably got intimidated a bit in terms of just how Loren was delivering and doing her job. Yeah. And then Jace was probably feeling like, oh, all right, what am I supposed to do? And I don't know what the dynamics is over there, and I'm not sure what they said to her in terms of how do you interact and be present in these spaces. Yeah. But I think she probably felt like she was kind of like outside of the scope of what was happening. And Loren just knows how to do it because she's super aggressive. So she can exchange with Charlamagne, she can exchange with Envy, and still do her job and not lose focus. Yeah. And still, you know, be impactful. But yeah, I just think that when you're putting somebody like a Jess in a position in that seat, you almost got to train them. You understand? Before I ever got a job in journalism, I did an internship for like a year or two, where it was just basically I'm just working, trying to figure this thing out, trying to understand how to make this thing, put this thing together. My first job wasn't like, all right, I'm finna go to ESPN and then sitting next to Stephen A. Smith.
First take.
Yeah, we on first take, and this is my first job. No, like it's levels to it. And even the Stephen A. Smith. Stephen A. Smith did an internship at the AJC.
I didn't know that.
He did, yeah. I actually know the guy who was actually helping him. My guy Terrence Moore, who was a sports
Terrence
journalist.
Moore is a legend.
Yeah, he's a legend.
Yeah.
So I know
NFL
Terrence,
Network.
NFL Network.
Yeah.
And so, but yeah, he told me that Stephen A. Smith did his internship at Atlanta Journal-Constitution.
How about that?
So, like I'm saying, Stephen A. Smith just didn't go on first take, and then like this is his first job. Like Stephen A. Smith, it was levels to it. He went from the AJC, did an internship there, then he went to Philadelphia, worked for the Philadelphia paper for years. Yeah. So when you put someone like a Jess in that seat, it's like you got to train this person. Like she has, and sometimes it might not take. Sometimes it might take years to even get average, right?
A big seat too.
A big seat, like
that's coveted.
Yeah, you got to like train this person.
Yeah,
you know, you need an internship. Like you got to like go through the motions of what it takes. Like I had, becoming a journalist. I didn't, I could always write. I could always put things together. But I didn't understand what it took to become a journalist until I did my internship. Wow. I didn't understand that you had to have patience when it comes to interviewing people, that you had to kind of, I did a court case where I had to go into a courtroom and sit in a courtroom for an entire week and just for hours, just sit there and just take notes for an entire week. You know what I'm saying? That's journalism. Like, calling people, like getting your facts together, like, almost following a paper trail to get what you need. You know what I'm saying? That's journalism. Like you might not get the story the first time you go out. Sometimes it might take you weeks to get a story. Sometimes it might take you a month or a year to get a story. That's journalism. It ain't just sitting in front of a mic talking. Like you got to put in the work. And a lot of these people don't want to put in the work. They just want to get in front of a mic. They want to get in front of lights and cameras and talk. Wow. That's not journalism. You just talking. Like you just giving your opinion. Yeah. It's not based in facts. And so I wish more people would understand that what we do as journalists is real and it's a process. And like we're not just putting ourselves out there. Most of us did internships. Most of us went through the rigors of transcribing and follow-ups and hours and hours of working on an article, working on a piece of video content. Like it takes time. And I think a lot of people are disrespecting the art of it right now. Yeah. And they just think that they could just jump into this space and do it because people are misconstruing journalism for entertainment. And those are two different things. And they can mix because in a lot of ways journalism is entertaining. But at the same time, it's different in terms of, are you watching something that's giving you information for entertainment? Or are you watching something that's giving you information that's going to be helpful to you? So I think people need to understand the difference.
AR, bro, you came in on a mission today, man. I thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. On the way out, where can everybody purchase Trap History, tap in with you, Atlanta Daily World, all that good stuff? Definitely follow me, AR Shaw 23, Instagram, AR Shaw, Twitter. I'm not really on Twitter much, but you can follow me. Check out Trap History, Atlanta Culture, the global impact of trap music. Just definitely follow my movement. Always got something that I'm cooking up. So appreciate this platform. Living legend, man. AR, I gotta always, give you all your flowers, salute you, all of that. Because again, to your point, during this time, everybody's talking about entertainment, but real journalists, that is what's needed to tell these stories. Because, man, 500 years from now, they'll be going back to articles, back to interviews, understanding who we are, who we were, all of those good things. So, man, thank you for always pulling up, brother, sharing great information and great knowledge, man. But y'all make sure to purchase Trap History, tap in, follow the good brother AR. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Blessed be your host, Caleb Smith. Until next time, y'all. Peace.